pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and the nation. Public, step forward and give us your name and address. That's fine.
That's good. Tyler Grant, I live at 47 Tanglewood Court, right here in Kensington. I come to you, I'm a New Britain training officer, at the New Britain Police Academy, and I wanted to come to you today as a concerned citizen. I understand staffing is difficult across the state, but as a training officer myself, I just kind of want to highlight some things and relationships that I've grown to, not only be as a citizen, but as a police officer here in the town of Berlin. I think what you have going for you right now as a department, the new chief, new deputy, and new command staff, the improvements, the foresight, the process in that, and obviously with you guys being the commission board together collectively unified, it's only going to make us obviously a safer town. That's obviously as a consider. I have 4 kids at home, wife. I'm always thinking about if I'm not working or if I'm not home and I'm working, what kind of staffing do we have? I have the great privilege. I am training 3 of your officers right now are recruits. I think they're going to do well. But more importantly, as a training officer and the things that come with it, I know that, again, facing staffing issues, one of the things that can be viewed or can be constructed is where can we have to take things apart, or we have to kind of minimize things and overload patrol, because that's the backbone of every police department. We're facing in New Britain as well, and I understand that. But knowing where we're going as the police department, as a town, as a city, and together as a relationship that I've grown to grow with, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there to you guys and commend Officer Legoo, Brandon Legoo, the training officer that you guys currently have. I know there's been some talk back and forth with what's happening. The relationship that we have grown to have has been incredible, not just because he's a great guy, a great character, and great father, great husband, all that stuff, but because he's a great trainer. And we have him come for scenario days. We have him come for all our academy level training. I even asked if he could come when Berlin's not even involved. And thank you, Chief, for allowing him to come on those occasions. This guy is top of the line throughout the state, and he's getting well known throughout the state as well. That's because he cares, he's passionate, he's knowledgeable, he has experience and expertise. So I just wanted to throw it to you guys as a citizen, but also as a training officer who's worked alongside him. And bare minimum, the training unit or the training department or the one training officer that Berlin decides to go with, if you take that away, we're going to see a deficit with the officers. It's going to be a lot harder to keep track, especially with the state regulations, state mandates. It's endless with the amount of paperwork that comes with it. So I just wanted to kind of bring it to you guys and say that, hey, listen, you have something really great, and I hope it continues. And on my own time, I would always welcome, we could always invite you to a scenario day or even make a scenario day. I will come on my own time. You guys can partake and see what officers or recruits have to go through. And then you can see the back end of a training officer and how they connect the dots and make a bigger impact with your recruits and future officers. Because our goal, especially in our academy, is to make confident police officers right away. Day one, obviously making us all safer. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And I look forward
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
you.
Excuse me, Tyler, your last name is?
Grant. G-R-A-N-T.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we need the approval of the minutes. Do you have any questions or comments?
I think a couple things. The no business, the no through truck signs were installed. Second.
Oh, that's
Oh.
correct.
Yeah, they weren't
They were
installed.
putting them up the day of.
They were already up.
Yeah,
They're already
we
up.
got that day.
Right here on that. They were installed the day of.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm sorry, but I live on Richard Road and they weren't. And we
Oh, they
watching
weren't.
for them.
They actually were not installed.
Somebody told us they were.
We told you that they were because that was our understanding, but what had happened was that the state had approved it that day and we had ordered the signs.
Yeah.
We just misunderstood what the traffic officer had told us. We thought they'd installed the signs, but they'd
Yeah.
ordered the signs. So as soon as the signs came in, they were installed, they are installed now, so.
Oh, they are?
We were,
Yes, they're up
yeah,
now.
we were incorrect, and we thought they'd been installed.
All right, so I guess we'll leave that then. to the-
Yeah, it's right.
Leave it.
Yeah, I think we exited, adjourned, at 8:41 and not 9:40. I don't think it was that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And the same with the executive session. I think it's just 8:40 and 8:41.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. I don't think I got home at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I blame you though,
It is
she
fun.
wasn't here.
I think we'll leave that one.
You and already.
Yeah.
All right, so I need a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Second,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Do we have any correspondence? Any letters, correspondence? Anything? No. All good with that? Okay. Move on to old business. Now, everybody realized that because we had changed the meeting, it's technically a special meeting. The same thing, it's just been people all put up. I guess if you were looking for correspondence, that would be what would be the correspondence. That people indicated that our September 11th was canceled and the police commission will hold special meeting today. So, up there. Okay, so now we're to old business, police renovation project update, verbal.
Project's moving along, the contractors moved to the outside of the building where the bathroom that's in the lobby and on the opposite side inside the building, they put the footing, poured the wall, started working on they're gonna open up that, they're gonna box in and they're gonna open it up to do the ADA compliance part on the bathrooms. The wiring is still being pulled, but most of the walls are in downstairs in the areas that were being enclosed. And we did have at the town council meeting last night approval to move forward with the computer head end system for the cameras were improved, the security system and the badging passcode system were all approved. They were done by the public buildings, and then last night they were rubber stamped by the town council.
That's wonderful news. So we're moving ahead.
And that probably covers number 3 too, because we're also working, they approved the stuff to move forward with
Yeah,
Norcom and the communication system too.
wonderful. So we got that
So-
camera coming. It's a 60,000 being built specials. These things that you don't order them off the shelf. They're
No,
manufactured.
it's manufactured.
That's why it takes time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to new business. Berlin Fair wrap up. Is there anything that anybody would like to comment on? Any of the-
She might.
Oh, we already talked.
Yeah.
I don't know, when the shuttles take about like 40 minutes to get in because there's so many people. I think we need to look at that, when we already talked about like the traffic flow getting in. The officers that were there did a phenomenal job. And I think it was just, we've got to figure out a way to like divert people from even trying to get in unless they have a vendor's pass. And I know we talked about like vendor's passes
Yeah, there
or
was some
something.
issues.
I mean, there was
Minor.
We have,
40 minutes on the,
we have a lot of those lighted signs, and that's actually exactly why we put those up there. Unfortunately,
everyone
Everybody-
disregarded them.
everybody disregards them and drives by and heads to the fair.
No, Saturday
People are
evening,
Just stubborn.
Yeah.
and they-
it was pretty bad.
Saturday's
surprised.
always gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
We
think I
think the
never
fair
noticed
went
because
pretty
I'm usually
well,
well into it by then.
you know.
There were no emergencies, no fights, no missing teenagers.
Oh my God, we had a lot of missing people, but we find them all. We the turnout on Thursday night was bigger than expected. Usually, because this is the second time the Thursday night thing happened. Friday night, not as busy as the previous 2 years of Friday nights that I've been at the fair. The crowd was a little bit different. We usually have all the kids, but there was 2 sporting events, a pitball concert. So we didn't see the kids that much on Friday night, but Saturday night,
Mhm.
oh my God, we had all the kids that didn't show up on
Every
Friday
town.
night. And then all the adults and, myself and Lieutenant Joe were talking about this today. We're gonna have a meeting before we meet with the Lions Club for the after action review. Not a lot of differences, but we need to plan. These crowds are getting bigger and the numbers are growing. And I mean, we had perfect weather for 4 days. And I know weather has a lot to do with this event, but,
So we were getting numbers turned out roughly.
no, we won't get that until
I got
probably
it today.
a month. Oh, you got it today?
A little bit over 46,000 scanned in, so that doesn't count the volunteers, it doesn't count, vendors and stuff like that. So 46,000 over days of scanned in.
Well, that seems kind of low compared to last year.
Well, last year
44.
included, all the people on the fair, but yeah.
Yeah, we're not counting all that in the scan though. There's a lot of people on the fairgrounds that didn't scan that. I was,
It's probably like 50 at least, over 50 then, right?
I just worry about like the
think so.
Saturdays trying to get, like, an ambulance, God forbid, Saturday, if there was, somebody needed to get some kind of medical attention, that would have been.
There's
Yeah.
no, there's no
Yeah.
ambulance on scene?
Oh, we have an
Um,
ambulance.
Okay, hypothetically, if they needed two.
yeah, I think,
We have a
well,
pickup
we have
area.
medical right there too. Yeah.
In a
so
true
that
emergency or in a fire, what we would do is we would stop the
everything.
traffic at the crest of the hill. And then we would bring in the emergency vehicles from the wrong way, so to speak, from Berlin Convenience.
The exit, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We've done that before if we've had a.
I'm sure you guys
I
have.
was in that
Tan,
group.
it was
We have
just-
officers out there. though.
You do?
Boom.
We have officers there, they just stop traffic and it just takes a minute or
Stop
two
everybody.
for the traffic to flow
Well-
through and then.
Yeah, they're at the merge, yeah.
The other thing that amazed me was the number of people stopping to debate with the officers. Like, I kind of felt bad for
That's
every
always-
officer.
That's always a problem.
Lieutenant Jones and I talked about that
That
today
was
too.
happening when I was working away from my, you know, 20, 30 years ago.
Nothing has changed.
I
Yeah.
felt for those guys because every car that passed wanted to debate with them. And I really felt for our guys because they had to talk to 50,000 people this weekend.
Is the road
It's
closed?
not, if you stop and then he stops and then he stops, nothing moves. You know, you're only moving one car.
Yeah,
And that's one of the things that we're
they
talking
did a
about
good job. I'm not
next year
putting
getting some,
against any-
no,
They're stopping to argue why they should.
yeah,
be let
the
into
lots,
gate,
when the
and not
lots are full, we
closed.
close the lots. And then, so most people, we really want, we need to, and we're gonna, we talked about this very briefly today, me and Lieutenant Joe. But we gotta sit down and get a better message across to people that the best way to go to the fair is to come in by bus.
Mhm.
And reduce the amount of traffic that's on Beckley. What happens is you got the left lane, which is a drive-through lane, and the right lane is people trying to turn. But once those lots are closed, it's really hard for us. We have no way to get that information out to the public coming off of Weathersfield or coming off of Deming in that way to tell them, hey, look, don't get in line and wait for a space that doesn't exist, because that's what was happening. I left the fairgrounds at around 5 o'clock to bring stuff over to Public Works. And when I came back, it took me a good 45 minutes to get in. I didn't go flipping lights on and pulling people over to get by them. I wouldn't do that. But I was escorting a van with some volunteers in it, and they were behind me. And then the buses, which were fully loaded, would literally stopped on the hill, because as people would get crest the hill, then they could see down and see that the gates were closed. Now they moved from the left lane to the right lane, back to the left lane to drive through. So we need a better way of doing that,
Do we
getting
have
that message out.
helicopters from the state for that?
Various message signs we've used. That's on our list of things to try and see if we can get, you know. But also, how do you get that message out? I think probably the best way, social media.
And I remember in the past, and I might not have seen them because I shuttled them, but the signs being on the turnpike saying lots full.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were there this time, if they were.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, they're there.
I shuttled, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're smart.
we close the
I don't
lots when
know.
they're full, but then 150 cars leave and then we open it back up. So people always try first.
Yeah.
Get in.
Right.
They might get in.
Sometimes they get lucky and that's why they got lucky.
Well, and I think people don't understand too, because I overheard somebody arguing with one of, I don't remember who it was, but I see parking spaces in the office, I can't remember, but she, her saying, I can't open the gates without the Lions' permission, right? Like, you can see all the parking spaces you can see, but somebody was arguing, like, debating with her about it.
Yeah, and Friday night, there was some concern about not having enough parking because they had to give up so many spaces, but they had a fireworks show for the 75th anniversary. I know I saw it on social media. People are complaining, oh, there's plenty of parking. They won't let us in. There's the usual complaint that there's not enough handicap parking. And when they actually have 20% of their spaces are for handicap, it's just a lot of people have handicap permits and all.
Yes.
So once those spaces are full, you're trying to get to any space that's available. It's, the
Yeah.
numbers are growing. The numbers are growing.
We
That's
can
all
reach
there
out
is
to
to
the
it.
cell phones and social media and say, okay, like an airdrop, we can get everybody's phone. Or if there's any technology out there like that, people can actually reach out to everybody in their car and say, this is what's going on. And this is, just throwing it out there.
I will throw out there that somewhere on social media it was posted, my kid brought this to my attention, that the Berlin Fair is the safest fair in the state of Connecticut. So I mean, kudos to you guys for that, because I said we can't get into trouble.
I
because
saw
it's the
that
safest
too.
fair. You did see it.
But I would
Okay.
knock on wood for anything to make sure that stays that way. Yeah.
So it's out on social media and kids know that the Berlin Fair is the safest fair.
Yeah, it was,
So they don't act a fool.
the usual dozen kids missing, or parents that said I had enough of my kid whining and decided to walk away from them, stuff like that. But we utilize our officers, and we had on Saturday night about 20 police cadets, 25 police cadets. Sunday, there was another 16. Friday's the tough day because our local police cadets, the Berlin kids, get that free pass to go to the fair like all the other students. And Thursday night, we had a pretty good turn. It was just all Berlin cadets. School nights are tough. School days are tough for outsiders coming to help us. But we got, and I'm sending out letters. So we had assistance from New Britain, Hartford, Danbury. I'm not sure if Fairfield showed up or not. They weren't there when I was there, but they might have come up on Sunday. I wasn't there Sunday. So I'll send letters out to the chiefs thanking them for their assistance. Give them next year's dates as soon as I have them, and we'll work on that for next year.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad everything went.
And when the cadets, one of the things I wanted to point, we were talking about this today, when these cadets come, they come with additional officers who are uniformed and armed. So we have,
Free help.
yep, they volunteer with, with the kids. They gotta come with their cadets, so they don't just sit in the command post, they move around, they respond to stuff. So it's an additional resource that we have on property.
Very nice. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, moving on to budget preparation. Any comments on that? We know we have our.
I sent you
We have
a
that.
couple emails,
I did look at that.
um,
I meant to print them, I forgot.
with the outline from the interim town manager with dates. And it's something we have to get on. They have some dates coming up, September 30th and October 7th was one of the dates, Drew, wasn't October 7th one?
Yeah, there's different phases.
Yeah, to get the budget done. Of course, the initial goal every year is to get the budgets in early. This year, it seems like we're going even earlier than last year, which was earlier than the year before.
They're very, very adamant about that.
Yeah,
And you did have us, you did speak to Don Lombardo.
I spoke to him very long the other
And I
night.
think he would be a great asset to making sure that we're do this correctly. And all our ducks in order.
Yeah, so I really think that what we need to do as you as a commission, for the input part is to give us the direction that you want us. We know pretty much what our annual budget is ahead of time. I would like to say fixed costs, but as you know, with inflation, the fixed costs are not the same every year. So some things are going up pretty rapidly, some things are going up actually a lot. And so what we're looking for is we need to know what the direction is that we're going to do when we develop the budget itself. And I know over the months, we talked about things like increased manpower or not increased manpower. Our original plan, my plan, when I was brought on board almost 3 years ago now, was to bring the department to 50. I don't know if we're still on that goal plan. You know, it's simple. You have a school shooting and my office blows up with phone calls. Hey, can we get another school resource officer? Whichever year we say we're gonna get another school resource. We gotta get officers out in the field first. So that's the guidance that we're looking for from this commission. And then the other part of it is we put it into the budget. You gotta support it.
When's the deadline for that?
I thought it was in the email that I sent, but
The first document that's due is this budget highlights.
yeah, a
document.
rough idea of what we're
That's due
doing.
by the end of the month. so-
And we have to, although that, they said, you know, you don't forget, you talk about a 2026 fiscal year.
Mhm.
So it's kind of hard when we do the budget to estimate and forecast what all the costs are gonna be in 2026, because we don't know what we're gonna have for
Isn't it the
manpower.
last half of 25, and the first half of 26? For the most part.
Yeah, pretty much. July 1st of 25 to 26,
All right,
they
well, I
listed
think
as
we should
fiscal year
stay in
2026.
communication with that. We have communication with the commission, text messages to talk to one another. So let's make sure we get this job done. And next week would be a good week to reach out with the ball rolling before the end of the month gets here quickly. Is there anything that Deputy Chief immediately needs for his part of this?
If anyone has any particular ideas and things they want us to focus on, that's kind of our first step.
Mhm.
So if you have some focus areas you think the police department really needs to bring up for next year, then those are the things that we kind of need to have.
A little extra homework for the commission. next week.
Manpower is also is a topic of discussion, so if we're trying to increase manpower, that's something that has to come from this commission.
Yeah,
I can tell you that, for budget purposes, a lot of our accounts that we pay, get equipment and training and all that stuff out of, it's a fairly small portion of that. The vast majority of our budget is salaries, benefits, overtime, health insurance,
Contractual
and
obligation.
the contractual obligations that we really have no control over. That's all calculated by the town. So the budgets that we do have a say over are basically, just our equipment accounts, what we spend on traffic stuff and equipment that we buy. And
well, if future staffing is the goal, we need to have that goal in sooner than later.
So so there's 2 dates I see, September 30th for the major initiative. And
So I
then
would
the
think that's-
31st for personnel.
Yes,
If we're looking to increase personnel, we need to have that by October.
October 31st. But for major initiatives would be things like,
If we were to talk about red light cameras, for example, that would be.
I have one.
I don't know, if any red light cameras going on our budget though.
Clock. I noticed
Yeah.
on,
Actually, it's interesting you brought that up because Lieutenant is here and he wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
For next year. And we're kind of missing the boat, I think, for communities in the area. We're kind of one of the last ones that
Don't have a hookup.
joining
Yeah,
us. We don't
it's
have any
cheap.
of it.
and you can,
So,
Investigative research that it gives us, and it's not just. ours.
What are these? These are cameras that are.
So they're fixed license plate reader cameras.
You drive by them.
That are tied to the files that are downloaded from the
And they'll give you wanted people if they're registered in the car, they give you stolen cars. You set them up running.
You can't get in and out of Rocky Hill without going past one.
Right. You put them, it's approaches to the town, and essentially, somebody drives a stolen vehicle into town, we're gonna get an alert.
You'll come right into the PD.
It'll come right into the PD, dispatchers will notify, and then we can send everybody into the area. Generally, the people that are committing crimes now are driving stolen cars, doing it.
How do you get into this program? How do
Well,
you get these-
the other benefit too is that, say you have a robbery, you can immediately go into the system and say 1, 2, 3, ABC, whatever the plate is.
Right.
And, you buy the cameras, but it's not limited to your cameras. It's every flock system across the nation you have access to. And a lot of businesses have flock cameras, like you wouldn't know it, but like a Target might have a flock camera. So if someone goes into a Target parking lot, it'll tell you where it is. So
Flock.
Well, that's the company, yeah.
So I think it's like 50 grand for 10 cameras. That's the minimum, I think, 50 or 100 grand.
Yeah.
And that gives you like the nationwide access.
I think for us.
But it sounds like the access,
Let's get.
I mean, the cameras are great, plus
Or is that,
Yeah, but
Makes sense, right?
yeah,
yes, per year.
I think it's
It'll
2 grand per
be-
camera per year, but if you pay like 50 grand, then you get like everyone, all access across the state,
Yeah,
which
I'm
is,
sure there's all
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
things like that.
So if they take off on you and they head into Hartford or they go to Southington, you'll be able
They
to
get the alert too.
Let's get that on our.
So that would be under like a technology heading.
So what I could do is meet with the sales rep, do some research, get a proposal, so I can bring back part numbers of what, like in our community, how many cameras they recommend, isn't what they have to go with. Obviously. Southington. But they recommend, they do a study on your traffic patterns, things like that, tell us where they think they should go. And tweak that based on what we know happens in town.
I think it's a safe assumption that everybody in this room would be all in. Oh, yeah. So. is
So
this
that'd be something we would add to one of our,
Yeah,
our
that would be a big,
equipment
big thing.
budgets.
That's a big-
And that would be a yearly fee, so it would,
Mhm.
be something that we have.
Is that something?
be a
we could
higher cost
action
to
before
start,
the
and
end of the
then
month?
No,
like 50
I
to
think
start, and
it's-
then 20,000 to maintain.
I think it's a.
They send me stuff
you pay a
every
monthly
day.
fee,
I
or
mean, even
you
actually.
Yeah.
Pretty consistent.
Oh, so you see, they're gonna be there. Yeah, we
You
can
know
talk
the
to them
name of the
tomorrow.
other one besides Flock, is it Recor, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but Flock is what everybody around us is.
I think Recor is actually better, but Flock, you get the nationwide access, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like. If
If
you
most
could
communities
get
are
both,
using
then
Flock.
that's, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be
We-
worth it to
we're
get
gonna
those
be at a,
estimates, but then go with.
Chiefs
like,
Police
whoever's
Conference
using
tomorrow.
it.
The month quarterly meeting, and they'll have, their sponsors, so we'll be able to
Well,
talk.
I'm very, very, very anxious to move forward with action this one. That
So it-
sounds like a wonderful.
Would something like that just need to be in our November 29th submission, because it's a regular line item?
Yeah, it's just,
Okay,
that would
not a
be, I
capital.
would just update the line item. So what happens is I have a sheet that we submit every year for a requested budget. Most of the stuff is not determined by us. So basically from here,
Yeah.
this section and a lot of the next page is the accounts that we draw money from. And then what we do is for each one of those items, there's a small paragraph after it with an explanation. So if we're raising that amount, we can put in there an explanation as to why we want to raise that budget by 20,000 or 30,000, what that is. And we had some substantial raises last year. We needed to raise things for training. We've been falling way behind on training funding, and we raised our training funding. We had to put an extra $45,000 in there for bulletproof vests, because this is we're coming up
5-year
on that
rotation.
year to do the bulletproof vests again. And there were a couple of other things. We've never had any funding or anything for furniture in the past, so I tried to put some extra money in there so that offices that need to have some consolidation, or we need to have a better arrangement. I mean, we have desks down there that are like you'd see on TV from the old cop shows, the old metal, I mean, just.
Everyone needs a chair to sit on.
So you need a chair to sit on, and chairs are expensive, because last year I replaced half the chairs in the
I
conference
remember.
room. I gotta do the other half
The other
this
half,
year.
they all match.
So it's stuff like that. The budget for it, you can't get it. So we'll work on that.
In terms of training, do you think that will be another increase this year? Or do you think we've caught up to kind of where all the state mandates
I think
Um,
we're in
Want
a
us to be.
pretty good space. Right now, our problem with training is overtime. Because the chief has been sending people to train the trainer classes. We have a lot of trainers now. And we are capable of doing all the training ourselves, which we do during quarterly trainings. And we do all the stuff that we have to do hands-on. And that costs money to do that quarterly training because you have to get everybody in for it. So it costs a lot of overtime. And, that's one of the issues we face with overtime is trying to get that done.
I'm working on a succession plan right now for the agency. Because in the next, well, in 4 years from now, there's going to be the potential for at least 7 command staff / supervisors to retire. Not even taking into account chief and deputy chief, this is just uniform, staff members. And we need to be out in front of that, which means we need to send them to management training, which is not mandated post-training. This is over and above
Yeah,
stuff. And that's not inexpensive, but for the health of the department, we have to be planning for this and it has to get done.
so I guess that ties into, so we should be budgeting more, increasing our training budget to account for,
We did that last
Looking
year.
ahead.
Yeah, we got it.
We're looking
Look
pretty
at it.
good for money for training. We have money to send
Good
people
this
for training. Unfortunately, when we are lower on staff and on paper, it looks like we're almost full staff, but we're not even near full staff. That's, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but to send people to these classes, it costs money, costs overtime.
But you send in the person that you're paying for,
Mhm.
and you gotta send the person, you
Yeah.
gotta bring the
cover the
person in to cover the shift.
They gotta fill their spot. So not every shift, but a lot of shifts you have to. So
All right, well, sounds like we're moving in a good direction.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the input at this point. I think we'll move on to the chief's monthly report. Chief, would you like to make any remarks, please?
Well, I always write the report a week before everything happens, so, we increased our patrols. Last month, we saw, we really focused on the traffic complaints and the issues with, all the traffic things that are happening, speeding, red lights, being out there in the public's eye more. You will see in Lieutenant Martin's report, our numbers went way up on effective law enforcement action as far as summonses. We're making more stops, but we're also taking a more aggressive stance on, officers tend to wanna give people breaks. Our officers tend to wanna give people breaks, so we've been on top of them to write more actual summonses, give out what we call more pieces of paper, even though it's electronic now. And it's making a difference because I actually brought a couple of emails with people thanking us like immediately. Our list of every street that wants an officer on their street is literally every street in Berlin. And we don't have an officer for every street, so we've been rotating our sign, our speed sign around. We've been trying really hard to get like a neighborhood today, and then a neighborhood tomorrow, then a neighborhood the next day. And what I get is an email saying, hey, guess what? Cars are flying down Middletown Road. You could sit in my parking lot and sit in my driveway and write tickets all day. And you see this, you're seeing it on social media, the same people on social media, the same people that are emailing their complaints to us.
Mhm.
Yes, we could do that. But then that ties that person up. And I'm not really sure about sitting in somebody's driveway for liability issues and everything, if a car jumps out and stuff like that. But it has been done, but then you get them for a couple hours. And then you might not see them again because now they're going to the next street. And that's without calls for service being tagged in on this. So the calls for service, of course, take precedent. But we've done a really, I think the officers have done a great job this month. They really kicked up the game going into the fair weekend. The fair takes a lot of our resources too because of planning and setup and everything. So, we've increased patrols. We do the speed monitoring. I wrote it all into the report here.
I did, I just like that, to get into the public so that they can understand what you're doing.
Yeah,
I'd have to be a pleasure to do that, because I was very impressed by his thought.
well, that's actually how I respond to some of the emails,
Yeah,
specific to their neighborhoods, because some neighborhoods you can't use the sign. Some places you can. Some places are not conducive to running radar because the speed limit signs don't really exist, and you gotta have all these rules. So, and we address every complaint. And what we're seeing is some positive reaction, because they're seeing the officers out there.
I'll just throw this out there, and it goes, and I'll start midway, this is where really the rubber meets the road. It says a small department, you're receiving similar complaints from all over the town, with each neighborhood requesting enforcement actions, which you just make clear. It is extremely hard for our personnel to be everywhere at once. Below are a couple of steps we will have taken to address concerns about speeding traffic controls. We broke it down into these 4 categories. Increased patrols, we have increased police patrols in many areas to monitor and deter speeding. Officers have been instructed to enforce speed limits strictly. Radar may be deployed randomly. Secondly, speed monitoring. We have deployed our speed monitoring devices to gather data on the extent of speeding problems. This will help us understand peak times and the severity of the issue. Next would be the BMS/speed monitoring system. We have, and we'll deploy our variable message device to let operators know the speed was being monitored and display their actual speed. And then there's a feedback loop. We are keeping complaints updated on the actions that have taken and any progress made. The feedback is valuable, and we encourage everyone to report any further issues or observations. And then again, in closing, ensure the safety of our wayway has always been top priority for our department. Our efforts are best illustrated by having Mothers Against Drunk Driving Mad recently named 2 of our officers, Brendan Clark, Megan Sandy, as recipients of the Top Cop Award, which they will receive the luncheon in Mohegan Sun October 4th. This is the time that Matt has issued the award to 2 officers. Wonderful. I guess, is there anything else you'd like to say, Jim?
Of course, with this, we really need the officers that when they get out of the academy, that are in the academy, successfully complete the FTO program, to get out in the field right away as soon as we can. We're hamstrung with times because of the amount of time that you have to have.
Right.
So,
Looks like January, about 3 officers.
yeah, and that's why I had to pull 3 officers out of other assignments. Our training officer, our community service officer who was on special assignment, and one of our acting detectives are all back in patrol to make up the deficiencies to address these needs. So I understand.
Well, I'm glad we did that, because we were desperate for patrol officers.
Well, we need to get a message across to the public too, that we're not turning a blind eye to their concerns also, and more aggressive enforcement, the word spreads and people will slow down when they come into our town.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for that report. Now we have the Patrol Operation Division, Lieutenant Martin. And actually, Lieutenant Martin's here. Would you like to make any comment on the report?
No, but I'll answer any questions you have.
Well, I would like to, I noticed that the different officers, everything from August 20th to Officer Bennett, and Officer Truskowski and Officer Mattei. I would just like to say exceptional work by all officers involved in the above events. I don't know that the public can't read what we have, so I'll just throw it out there. August 20th, 24, Officer Bennett was running plates and days in parking lot when he discovered a vehicle of a 36-year-old male who was wanted by Waterbury PD for larceny, first criminal mischief, first burglary, third. Officer Bennett located the room the male was residing in and detained him to help from his fellow officers. Suspect had a small amount of cocaine on his person. He was arrested for possession of narcotics and turned over to Waterbury PD. Excellent work. August 27th. Officer Bennett was running plates in the days in parking lot, located a vehicle was registered owner, parentheses, was wanted by CSP Troop H for possession of child pornography. Officer Bennett, Officer before spoke with the clerk, who confirmed confirmed that the mail was a guest and provided him his room number. Officer Bennett and Ford then located and took the mail into custody and was turned over to the CS group. And there's a case, excellent work again. Officer Kriskowski, while off duty, received a call from Econ Police regarding listed subjects that were wanted in domestic warrants. The male having violent firearms history and threat to female half. Motel checks, registration clerk conducted by Officer Bennett put the accused couple on radar for Econ, who checked the registration daily and followed up at the details of the subjects. Officers were dispatched to the location and arrested both parties without incident. Good job by Officer Kennedy, who orchestrated the arrest of House's information, Clark and Johnson. Fabulous work. A 35-year-old male was charged with violation of protection order based on information obtained upon making contact. $2,500 non-secured bond and TOT turned over to Econ Police for their hard copy warrant with a $100,000 C/S bond. A 35-year-old female was given the same charge and bond released after Econ gave her a PTA pursuant to the hard copy warrant. Then you had August 28th, officers been say supervisor received an email accommodation from the town's social worker, Robin Evans, for the exceptional assistance he provided. Mr. Evans reported that he called Officer Vincey after his shift had ended regarding the town resident need of assistance. The officer Vincey responded while off duty. Ms. Evans praised Officer Vincey's wealth of knowledge and exceptional work by all officers involved. I found it there.
And can I just add,
Sure.
just the other night when I let you know about Officer Green with the shoplifting incident and getting bit and all, another off duty, our officers are acting while they're working, while they're not working. And I think it's a testament to some of the stuff that they're doing, that the townspeople believe they have a much bigger police department than they really do have. And that's part of our problem. We're looking at budgeting and all too. Because we know we need more people, we know we need more resources. And yet, if you look around, you see our people are everywhere. So just the fair the other night, you walk around, you see officers everywhere. We're seeing more off-duty activity. And, so I'm glad that people are stepping up and all. But also, that's an indicator of what's happening in our society. It's not just in Berlin, it's all over the country, but the job is getting a little bit harder every day because the numbers are not where we need, whether it's us, other local agencies, the state police, even the federal agencies. We're having a hard time getting people to put on a uniform in this country, go out and do this job. And those that we have are pretty good.
It's also a huge indicator of the morale of our officers and their buy-in. If they're willing to do things when they're not working,
Yeah.
or the department, or the town. Employees don't, just don't do things on their own time for their employers typically.
Yeah.
Our officers are doing stuff because they believe in what we're doing.
And I think it speaks to the work that you guys have been doing as leadership in terms of morale and buy-in and kind of feeding into the idea of carrying out the perpetuity of this organization. So kudos to you guys for that work.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, I agree with you. We have this kind of, performance with our officers off duty. And so we have calls for service. Apparently, that was up in August. It's like they went 1480 to 1696. Then again, August is August. So they left my hair down. So I guess
I can see that.
Yeah.
On the next page is August motor vehicle activity analysis. Enforcement action on stop written warnings, 48.7. Infraction ticket, 25.65. Verbal warning, 11.15. Misdemeanor summons, 5.58. And no disposition, 1.2%. Or 1.
You want to look at,
For 100%. Anybody have any comments on that?
yeah,
I was, not a lot of them particular.
We don't list the incidents that.
probably follow.
Never gets in the way.
It's not that safe.
Why?
So
Well, we do
most
have,
of them,
we do have, it's getting better.
they're looking
Yeah.
at people on the side outside duties. That's probably why she's. This is normally she put you down.
Others know about it. Oops.
Oh,
All right, so we're gonna move on.
uh,
I just wanted to point out, if you look at your August one, I don't know if you just mentioned it, 269 motor vehicle contacts in 1 month. That's the highest number you've seen in the 3 years I've been here.
That's what I was reading.
It'll be higher next month.
Already over 218.
We already have over 200. It's only 18 today.
Of the month, yeah.
nice job.
Well, we just don't want the general public to think that they can do anything, to just get away with it. I mean, this is great. Fire. Okay, so we had the review burglary, already booked up, Larkin case. Other than that, is any of the other commissioners have anything like to add about this? The report. We do have the qualified day of the week. If anybody would like to, any commissioners would like to make comments on that. Right, there it is. A really nice breakdown, it's really appreciated. And then we can have a Berlin Police Department report called time analysis, which gives us how much time all these categories take to make these calls with tremendous amount of time. And 1, 2, 3, page 1. We get to our calendar for the use of Mattabasset. There's all these blank spots are there's no fillings. This is all been agreed.
Mhm.
This is all agreed to. So on anything that doesn't have anything in it would be written by the police department. Right.
Correct. Those are all the open days.
October looks like it's got a lot of traffic. That's
Everybody's trying to get in there,
We do our night
night shooting, yeah.
And then we have overtime compensation. Randy Thomas is a very nice program. We appreciate taking the time to do this. It gives us an idea of where the money's going. You have overtime, you have the HP unit, you have stuff like background administration, background investigation, fair administration, apparently, cadet program, casework, community relations, sports teams, dive teams, field training officers, and what this shows to us on the commission is where all the overtime money is being spent on a very intimate breakdown.
And I highlighted 2 points on here. One was during the August 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2023 was last August. And the comparison, the overtime budget, that total was 63,000 and change. And this past August, even with a lot of people out with the vacation time and with babies being born and all, we only 42,000 this year. And you gotta take into account that that's almost 21,000, almost $22,000 reduction.
I saw that. And I was also talking to the deputy chief about this. It looks like the 3 main drivers, the largest drivers are overtime due to vacancies, sick and personal days. So,
Yes,
and as I understand it, personal days are mandatorily obliged, right? So is that how it works in the contract now? Like you have to give them, so you have to back.
yes,
Right.
yes, they got it. Because before this contract, they would accumulate them and they couldn't use them. That was a problem.
So what do you think the difference is between last year and this year as far as $20,000 reduction?
I think more people coming to work, less vacation time. You know, some of our younger officers that are now out in the field, they don't get multiple weeks of vacation like the senior officers do, where they, we see our senior officers will take 2 weeks or 3 weeks in the summer, whereas your younger officers get 1 week or maybe 2 weeks if they're trying to save some for throughout the year. So I think that shifted also. The vacation time itself kind of shifted, which kept us. The other thing I believe was there was an inordinate amount of order-ins. And after a certain period of order-ins, officers are starting to realize, listen, I gotta come to work, because if I don't come to work, you're getting ordered in and you're not happy. So when it's your turn to work your regular shift, you don't come to work, another officer's gotta cover for you, because now that's an order-in. And that was a big issue. Also, I just think that we just started getting more aggressive officers. Not aggressive's not the term I'm looking for.
More willing to come in.
More younger, and when the job is new, when
Hungry,
the
yeah.
job is new, how you want to come to work and you want to do something. And we have a fairly young department in our patrol division right now. Most officers have less than 5 years on the department.
Lieutenant Martin, you had something you'd like to say?
One of the drivers of last year's overtime numbers was a contractual change that was requested by finance, town manager, and HR. Change our vacation year from our date of hire. All our vacation used to expire on our date of hire. They wanted to go back to a July 1 to July 30 date. So many people in the department had extra vacation time last year because the town didn't take away time that people had on the books. But when they went to the July 1 date, there were people that had an expiration of December, let's say, and had 3 weeks vacation left over, or just, hadn't used it yet, but then they got another full year's worth of vacation. That amounted to about $136,000 in overtime for last fiscal year. The change that the town wanted to make. But the union had changed that to avoid the May and June onslaught of people taking time off to use up their time. So we said, well, let's go to an anniversary date vacation schedule as opposed to June 30. But it doesn't work for the town from a budget perspective, apparently, if they wanted to go back the other way. So that was a huge driver in overtime cost last year. I did a calculation and it was 136 8-hour shifts. I think it came out to about $97,000 actual overtime.
Is it possible to get a little bit of a memo in the next commissioner meeting, just so that we have that for the public record? That is an awesome explanation. I would agree.
No, it was just recorded.
Yeah, it
was-
Well, it is, but.
We talked about that
Right.
in the
There's
last
some-
meeting.
Yeah, we talked about it.
budgets as well. We brought that up. But the other thing really that we've been concentrating on as a police department is we've been watching the overtime very closely. We did a lot of belt tightening. We knew we had to do that this year because we didn't get the money in our overtime budget that was recommended by finance. He said, I think you need this much money, and it was reduced. So we knew we had to belt tighten. And so we don't do things that are going to create overtime unless we absolutely need to.
How much?
We ever get a
We've got all three of us.
answer? I realize that they transfer money inside our budget.
Yes.
And in order to do that, that goes through the finance board and town council to approve it. So basically, we're working with the money and the budget that we were given for the year. Are we going above and beyond that at any point?
No. Any money that was transferred into overtime came from salaries, which was extra money that was left in salaries due to personnel shortages. We've never came back to get more money from the town for overtime that wasn't contained within our own budget.
So that feeds into my question, sorry. How much do you think being short-staffed, and we know that the vacation was a great impact to the retirement, do you think now that, to the overtime, do you think now that we're more fully staffed, that should reduce the overtime a little more?
We're really
This
not
into
more
this
fully
year.
We're not
staffed,
fully
to be
staffed,
honest.
really. Yeah.
You think technically you think
Not,
we're at
yeah.
45, but we're not because we have 3 in the academy, 1 in FTO. I mean, we're really down about 5 people.
Yeah, but higher than we were this time last
We're
year.
short 5 people that are not on their own.
So just to clarify, it says 45 is the staffing, but it's really
40.
45 minus the 5.
Right.
minus injured, military, paternity leave, sick leave, you know.
But,
Working people.
but where's that in comparison to last year? I think that number is higher than last year, correct?
We hired some people.
Our staffing is higher,
Yeah.
not our vacancies.
In the calendar year of 2023, we hired 8 officers that still currently work here. I forget offhand if there was one that
I have,
we don't have.
I have some that, on the list.
8, there's 7 of those 8 are working. 6 of them are working.
Yeah.
We get updated next month, and that's their,
And then we got the 3 in the Newport Academy.
You want this?
we usually get that once in a while.
The seniority list?
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't you get it last month?
After what, February? I think after February,
Oh,
pretty
well,
much,
okay.
those people have all gone
It's,
through.
it's gonna change. Ken. It changed every
I know,
month.
but it's just,
Yeah.
once a year, it's.
Yeah, I highlighted
April.
the exact, we were talking about this earlier too.
I have a
We
few
lost it.
questions if you guys don't mind,
Yes.
if you're done.
I'm done, thank you.
The summary here for overtime, if you look at last year's August, it says like for sick time, 60.25 under earned premium, that's hours, correct? So when you look at the salary cost for those 60 hours of $3,700. Now, when you look at the same line item the following year, it's only 7 more hours, which means there's only 1 extra shift that had to be filled this month as opposed to last year. But the salary count is expenditure is $5,100, right? So that would lead me to believe that salaries have gone up.
That's
much
all, that's
more
all
than
contractual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the problems.
Based on someone,
Right.
sergeant.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Well,
so
Let me give you a little
so
story
that's-
about
that's pretty
overtime
important.
for this month. We just had a sergeant injured himself off duty. He is gonna be gone after surgery
1 month.
for 4 months. That's 4 months of sergeant's overtime for that one slot. That's 3 days a week. And that's gonna, and we also have, and we talked about it before, they're just about to break through that bathroom and dispatch. And once that happens, that will be approximately 1 month of overtime. We'll have to fill a second dispatcher for that month. Plus, you know, we just had the fair, and frankly, last night at the town council meeting, over $8,000 was approved in waivers for traffic direction. So we're gonna get a little kick in the pants and overtime in the next couple of months. I gotta tell you, right now, we're right on the line where we should be. But now we have the fair, that's not including the fair.
We have 8,000 in waivers because of the fair.
How
No,
many-
no. These are other events,
Other event.
Those are charity events. that the town council-
5Ks and stuff. And that.
Didn't we talk about-
Take the hit.
We take the hit on all of them.
Yeah,
Comes from our
town
overtime.
council approves it.
And the dispatch.
So they approve it out of our budget
Yeah.
without
last-
being aware of our budget.
Last month, I think we spoke with
Yes.
Mayor Mark and Rep Veach about that.
Yeah.
About kind of addressing that and kind of reining it in, having some sort of like approved budget item that the town council can't go above, and then they budget that in the department. So, hey, 50 grand is what we're gonna do in giveaways, if you will.
Right.
And then, you know, once you hit the 50 grand, that's it. You kind of.
Yeah,
have
so
nothing.
right now, that giveaway comes out of our overtime account, which is really being billed when we run low out of our regular payroll account because we don't have people in those
Salaries, right.
positions.
Which is fine. I mean, they can waive all the fees they want as long as they understand it. Comes out of our overtime budget.
So,
Fair alone, it's gotta be.
Well, 40, in the 40s. You know, and the other thing is contractually, officers started making private duty rate at the fair, whereas they always had overtime before. However, the interesting caveat to that this year is we had very few order-ins compared to past years.
Yes,
Because the money was better.
Extremely low.
and everybody was getting
Unordered.
paid the same rate.
And some of those order-ins was a result of that sergeant who had got injured right prior to the fair and needs to have surgery, can't return to work through,
Yeah.
you know, it's unavoidable, but those are the things that happen to your budget that you can't figure it out.
So with respect to sick time, do you guys do audits, monthly audits, quarterly audits with respect to making sure it's not in conjunction with like vacation days or days off and stuff like that?
Yeah, we review it all the time to see if anybody's abusing sick time, and we haven't seen, in the 3 years I've been here, I haven't seen any issues.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it with those numbers, but I, you know.
The sergeants are supposed to keep track of people, but it's never really been a big problem. And a lot of the sick time was, we had several officers not long ago that were out on paternity leave, and a lot of that
Yeah.
sick time comes
Comes
out
out
of
of there
that. 'Cause
first.
they're all off for like 6 weeks or so. That's sick time, so.
And I guess while we're on the topic, prior to this meeting, Chief, I sent you the spreadsheet regarding overtime expenditures and wages. And, you know, just for the members of the board that haven't seen it, it just talks about year 22, year 23, and year 24, and then it compares, and I could send it to you guys. It compares the staffing of sworn along with overtime and personnel wages, and it shows a little bit of an increase in
Yeah,
24 over 23, and good. And 22. So I just sent it to the chief just to kind of see if he could maybe shed some light on what that was about.
I just gave away all my copies. So when we looked at it, it's basically everything we're saying about the availability of people. When you look at this, you look at these, if you're focusing on the full-time employee number, the numbers here, full-time, we just never have had the number of personnel that's listed in the third column under actual costs. But we're paying officers full-time rates of pay and all as we train them. And we did have, that's one of the things that we just mentioned, and I had the sheet here, where, so like when we look back at say the 2023 year, we were short 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We were short 10 officers.
So the 44 is actually 34.
In reality, yeah, 44 is a number that they said, this is what you can bring the department to. Also in that year, they only funded the department to 42. And consistently, the finance board has done that in the 3 years I've been here. With that, they'll think you can go to this number, but they fund below the number.
So it was
until we
actually
get to that
40.
now.
It was actually 40, not 42 for that year.
Well, 40 would have been the first year, your fiscal year 22.
Yep.
23 would have been 42. And then for this 24 year, it says 46 on paper. We're not gonna make 46.
So I guess my question is as well, and we kind of spoke about it earlier, but you can have a staffing of 100 officers, but if 50 are out injured, you really are down to
Near 50.
50, right?
Yeah.
So in your research, were you able to uncover maybe some of that in these years that happened? Like I know you
Well, yeah,
mentioned-
because we know that in that, just looking at the middle one, the 23 year, if we were down really to 34, right? And it was actually, in that year, we put 2 people through academies and they didn't successfully, well, they didn't stay. They didn't make it FTO, or they went to another agency
Plus, we had one
And we
officer
had-
on workman's comp
all year,
for essentially 2 years.
almost 2 years.
2
And we
years.
had the one officer that was in Baghdad for 14 months.
Mhm.
So all those had to be backfilled too. So we were really way down number wise.
So in your opinion, in the foreseeable future for the upcoming or the fiscal year we're in, do you still see an increased number of officers that are taken offline due to whatever reason? Or do you think it's going to get better with the addition of these new officers coming on board? Like what's
Well, it has
your
to get better
projection?
because we're gonna have more bodies. Taking all personalities and everything out, we have more bodies to fill those boxes. You're filling 4-hour blocks and 8-hour blocks. So, you know, we're looking at bringing 3 more people onto the road by February. That will reduce us a minimum of 120 hours that we're trying to fill right now, 40 hours each.
Mhm.
And if they work more than 40 hours a week, you're reducing that box, that fill
Even
in the
more,
blanks
yeah.
even more.
Yeah.
But if I'm understanding your question correctly, things like the leaves, like we've got a very young staff. If we look at the seniority ranking, we need to consider that, you know, as this staff gets older, they may be out on paternity and maternity leaves. And we can't predict those kind of things. We can't predict injuries. I don't know if we have any in the reserves or active, the reserves that may get deployed. Like there's certain things that I think that we were unable to predict over the past years
Yeah,
that
and
are still gonna be issues that we face. And when I'm looking at the monetary amount, to your point earlier, like the dollar amount depends on who's calling out and whose shift we're covering for overtime.
Right.
So to lump it into, to say, why were these, what's the variation of the numbers? Well, if you've got a sergeant out on workman's comp, that's gonna look a lot different than an officer out, a brand new officer out on FMLA. So I think we've got to take those things into consideration
And who builds it?
yeah,
and who fills it,
So
right?
Saturday night at the fair, I worked patrol as the street boss at lieutenant's pay because there was no one else to work.
And those are things we
That's
can't
more
ignore.
money.
and like in that fiscal year 2023, we had an officer that was injured, not in the line of duty. He was injured outside the department. So he just was going through rehab, trying to get back to work, and we still had to cover his time.
Yeah, to his point, the appropriate analysis isn't so much the pay, because every year contractually pay goes up. It also depends on who's working it.
Mhm.
The appropriate analysis is hours, right? So if annually you guys work 1,000 hours, let's just say as a whole, I know that's a crazy number, but 1,000 hours. You know, if the following year you work 35,000 hours, then that's a red flag, right? Like that's the variance is too much.
Mhm.
So, but looking at the hours, it looks like from last year in August to this year in August, we're trending in a better direction.
Yes,
Um,
we're lower.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it sounds like
Less
with
hours.
the addition of more officers, you know, throwing more officers to the department is, you know, the notion of reducing overtime is good, but there's a lot of hidden variables in there. So I kind of wanted the hidden variable.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
well, 5 years ago when I was applying for this job and came before this commission and in the interview process and all, their plan was based on 5 years out. We were doing like almost a capital plan for policing, basically, right? 5 years out, where would we need to be in 5 years? And at that time, the direction was, can we get to 50? And can you, as the person that's applying for the job, bring us to 50? And of course, some said, yeah, I could bring you to 50. And then we've been going in that direction, but we had a couple missteps, a couple things have happened. But what we didn't have in our account was the effects of the coming out of COVID, the amount of calls for service, the types of calls for service have all changed since I've gotten here. In 2.5, 3 years, the calls for service are much more complex. I mean, you know, just like last night when you have an organization doing a catch a predator. I mean, those are things that you didn't hear of a couple of years ago in this area, you know?
Plus, you know, police accountability,
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had DPF land.
especially in the training area.
But the training has
Yeah.
been a big hit that we
Big
really weren't prepared for. And I can tell you right now, no agency in Connecticut in law enforcement has been prepared for the unfunded mandated training that we've been getting tossed to us from Post. And Post does something simple, it says, okay, so you have use of force training that was 6 hours, and we want to make it an 8-hour day, so you're only adding 2 hours. But that 2 hours, you got to times by your personnel, and that's also 2 hours that somebody else has to work that in
And then on top
a
of that,
backfill mode or whatever. So our goal was, remember, we were talking about creating our own training cadre, doing more training in-house. Now, all these things are spokes to a wheel, because the wheel being the agency, the spokes being, well, we want to do in-house training. So we've created more instructors. We can reduce costs because we're doing quarterly training. We've lost our ability to go someplace else because they're doing the same thing we're doing. Every agency's trying to struggle with some of these things. But we need that remodeling project, which has been going on downstairs. And maybe the next phase, they don't call it a phase, the next project is to create a different core, get us the classroom that we need internally. I mean, that's a big thing too. We got to get these bodies out on the road so I can bring back my training cadre back to doing that job. But right now, the training cadre is out doing patrol work because the needs of patrol outweighed. You really, you know what it is? It sticks on a plate, or a plate's on a stick. And you don't want the plates to fall. So we're kind of stuck in that room, keeping the plate spinning on the sticks. Everything is related to every other piece, and that costs money. And the money that we see, these are the things that we can get, we can forecast. What I can't forecast is if an officer decides to have a family.
Mhm.
We have some female officers that have talked to me in the past couple of weeks about starting families. We have another female who's going to be getting married. She was talking to me about her biological clock. I understand that part, right? I have one that just got married. She's talking about having kids. Now that's going to be 9 to 10 month hit, and that forecasting. Okay, that person's going to be out. When do we take them off? We didn't have light duty until this last contract. The sergeant that's out for up to 16 weeks, maybe in 8 weeks after surgeries and stuff, he can come back and we can get him in a light duty role, because he doesn't want to use all that time. And then he could do some function that right now won't be done. He can't go out on the road because of his injury, but that we still have to backfill that position. So then you look back and say, well, you got a body here, but that body can't go on the road. Our bodies on the road have to be 100% healthy. That's part of it. And then another part of this, we're FTOing a lot of young officers, and our FTOs get sergeant's pay when they're acting in the FTO, which also increases these numbers.
Loss, yeah.
And not everybody makes FTO. They're not all making it through.
Chief, I just want to say thank you to Lieutenant Martin's report. It's very lengthy. So he did a good job. Thank you to the deputy chief for the overtime report. If you could maybe keep that up, that's very beneficial. And then Chief, oh, sorry, if you wouldn't mind, I in the memorandum you gave to us, I think it would help me as well. You list 45 sworn personnel approved for 46, and then you have 3 listed in the academy and 2 on FTO. Those don't count as bodies on patrol. So really the 45 is 40. And then if in the memorandum you give to us, maybe you could list people who are out on military, paternity, maternity, injury or whatever. I think that would shed a better light as well, if you
Okay.
wouldn't mind including that, just because really the 45 is kind of deceiving, right? It's
Yes.
it really could be 35 and we wouldn't know, you know what I mean? So I think that would be very beneficial.
Flex on the overtime expenditure.
Correct. But I mean, and so comparing that to the overtime that the deputy chief is sending as well, I mean, considering the staffing as it is, and it's a $20,000 reduction from year over year for August comparative, I think that's a really good sign. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Thank
Very
you.
good. We're gonna move on to the investigation division, Lieutenant Stoller. Happens to be present. Is there anything you'd like to comment?
I'll just touch on a couple points here. I don't really like I keep the summary very brief because cases, I don't like to put much detail in here, but I do like to list these cases because they're kind of the cases that I like to think that we have a good chance of solving and prosecution. So that's why I put them on here for you guys to see. And as we go on, I just put the updates at the end. One case that I just want to know is of interest. We had an ongoing party that was called on multiple cases in our community, and there were several occasions that this party was reached for and so I would like to update that with the help of U.S. Marshals.
You don't have an 8.
Party
Not the circulation.
custody battle.
Which number was that, Detective? Recording secretary just wants to make sure.
Currently for backgrounds, two backgrounds assigned in August. currently only have one in the background. So last vacancy currently. But
Wonderful.
that year right there, we see that big increase over time. Probably back, we probably at 40 on paper and 34 operation compared to now. So I think our hiring efforts are finally getting us, to the water line where we're trying to get to. And last 4, 5 that we had in training, and one more hire that we are coming on to get us to where we always want to be, as long as we keep everything.
Maintain it, yeah.
And then, if like Chief was talking about, if our goal is to increase a couple more, that will give us that flexibility to operate where we want to be, even though we do have those 3, 4, 5 shortages that are going to occur sometimes, whether it's maternity or retirees or things like that. Give us the flexibility to do the task force assignments that we want to do, partner with other agencies, our regional, other municipal departments, and get some investigation that we want to do, given manpower.
That's wonderful. I have a couple of questions for you. I noticed that it's organized retail theft with Harbor Freight Tools has been going on. This was even back before you were here, Chief. And with Chief Platt, I actually went to him personally because I was in the store and witnessed this happening. But at what point do we actually get to arrest anybody? It seems like it's the same two perpetrators. Just wondering.
So in this case, the state actually just came out last year. They just created a new statute called organized retail theft, which has to be a certain aggregate amount of theft over a period of time. So instead of someone getting arrested 8 times for a larceny 6, if you can show an aggregate amount over a period of time, there's a much more serious charge. So that's what we're.
Yeah, and the cases get consolidated in one court.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where the issue is, although when the suspect leave, same suspect in these cases, that's can't. We only lump together the cases that case on its own. And we can't meet that threshold for the more serious case. So in that, we're gonna have to go with just.
So this is
Each event, you get a seems to be for each time you do it.
so maybe in time we can use this new statute.
It could be possible, but yeah, Harbor Freight seems like the go-to for, used to be Home Depot. I don't know if their corporate policies changed or if they put more into their internal.
They're more aggressive at the registers, I've noticed.
It don't seem like we get that much as we used to, and now Harbor Freight is the one that's.
They have a lot of high ticket, high theft items that they just will not lock up.
Yeah.
How many guys gotta walk out with the welder before you realize you gotta
Yeah, right?
physical security?
That's why they have those policies. They don't want employees getting injured to stop someone from stealing steak or lobster tails.
Understood. But it all worked out well.
Yeah.
It did, came out good. The other issue here that I noticed that caught my attention, it says Detective McMahon completed asset forfeiture application. The money seized in connection with a drug seizure, Harper Juvenile Court returned this disposition from the court for a position of seized money to be released to the Berlin Police Department for asset forfeiture. Do you mind if I ask how much?
I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's somewhere in the $3,500 probably. There was going to get a court split the money certain way. was a juvenile, so it's not very often that juvenile cases deal with asset forfeiture, and actually the prosecutors kind of had to figure out how to deal with this case. They don't do asset forfeiture very often. It's Harvard came up with a split, said this money's yours, and it's yours.
So we do have a participating officer in asset forfeiture money. We have a program going right now that,
Well, we always have accounts for asset forfeiture.
Okay.
But we can talk about this in greater detail when we go to executive session.
Okay. Very good. And I see that personnel reassignments were made to strengthen patrol division staffing to reduce overtime ordering, to increase enforcement presence. Part of these reassignments, Detective Delgado is reassigned to patrol division effective September 8th. The investigation division will operate temporarily with 4 personnel assigned. Until such time, patrol staff increases these new hires to training. That's very good. That's what we had discussed earlier. Sacrifice.
Right now,
for your
actually,
department.
Referral caseloads fluctuate like. Get heavy caseload. It can be the sustain.
Within was 4 or 5 months of having the FPOs completed.
Mhm.
And we should be able to give you some relief at that point, I'm hoping. That's good. Then I guess we move on. I guess that's it. Is there anything else you would like to add to that, Lieutenant? Your report?
Chief, you're gonna bring up. That's what it's like.
Yeah, an executive session.
So we have the juvenile detective Kevin Chafee's report, which is attached to Lieutenant Stolic's report. And one thing I noticed, for juvenile authority created this Thermos Picture Show movie theater and has asked to leave the premises. Staff members juvenile ledger refused to leave, so if you please for contact all 4 juveniles who located and identified the parents for contact juveniles who subsequently trespassed the business. No further enforcement action was taken. Was it because of the movie that was being played? They were acting up, or was it just they just going?
I don't know the specific. I would guess it's probably people going into other theaters causing
Yeah.
disturbance. To
Oh, really? Oh, okay, they
Yeah.
just leave the theater.
Yeah.
Just curious, it caught my attention. The other issues that I noticed, that apparently this is case number ending in 3252. Officers responded to residents reported a 15-year-old male who was being out of control, breaking things, had to return home intoxicated after night out. A verbal argument with his mother and grandmother. Subsequently pushed his mother and grandmother juvenile summons with a sort of contact. Do we pursue when a 15-year-old is intoxicated as to where the alcohol came from? Is that?
We do in some cases. I don't know in this case. I think there's another one. Is that the one that we did find out? No, it's a different case where we did find out where the alcohol came from. This one we did not. So it depends on the case. Like we had a different case where I think it was a noise complaint from a neighborhood, and neighbor reported that there were underage kids drinking in the house. The officers arrived and see clearly through the window of the house kids that looked like they were really underage and open alcohol containers that they were consuming. So they got a hold of the parents, talked to the kids. They got their enforcement, and they were actually cooperative and explained how they got the alcohol.
Oh, that's the last
That
case here.
gave us that's going to give us something in the future as an investigations division. We're going to get doing another compliance check.
Right. Well, there's a certain amount of responsibility that lands on the parents when something like this happens. I would imagine.
I mean, and that's with these, I don't want to say minor, but I want to say crimes that juveniles commit that don't have another physical victim involved. We'd like to.
Good.
That's where it's going to have the most effect. some things. So. Just
Well, thank you for the clarification. It sounds like it's all being handled. All right, so that takes care of both the Lieutenant Solik's report and Detective Chapin's report represented by Lieutenant Solik. Now we move on to Lieutenant Grove's Work Services Division. Is there anything that you would like to comment on this one?
I just touched on a couple things. We spent a lot of the month prepping for the Berlin Fair. We've already talked about it. We also finished up our OSHA audit and getting documents to OSHA. We held a coffee with a cop at Starbucks. And we also worked on getting our EMR license.
All right, very good. Was there any fines from OSHA out of curiosity?
Town-wide, there were some fines, and then
Any that came
they
out?
were
of
reduced. I don't remember what the TDs ended up being.
We had-
700.
We had two
700?
fines for
Well, they cut it in
$350. And I think they were essentially even cutting those in half, so.
Yeah. 350, I think is what we end up paying, right?
Yeah, we were an extremely small portion of the,
Compared to the other ones.
yeah, man, we came up pretty.
I'm like, I'm missing some stuff here now. I figured it was all together.
So you did mention this earlier, Chief, and I figured out in this report, and then you advised that they would be starting bathroom renovations at this back lobby after Labor Day. This would expect to have access to bathroom. Chief authorized coverage during construction, personal adequate bathroom breaks. That's where this extra overtime will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any of the other commissioners have any questions? Any suggestions?
Do they come from MHQ, the new cruisers?
We've been going to Norcom. We use MHQ a little bit, and we did a lot in the past, but a smaller agency, we don't always get into.
They have this really big customer. Priority.
Yeah, okay. Enough
Be at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
I guess, moving on to the budget. We have line items here, we have overtime, grant overtime, and extra police officers. Looks like remaining percentages are considerably high considering it's only a month after, 2 months after our budget started, correct? We're healthy there at the moment.
Yes.
Anybody have any concerns or questions? Okay, and then we'll move on to the freedom of information law.
That was the longest
Concerns
one I've
there?
seen.
I know.
Jesus.
There's a lot of traffic there. Anybody have any concerns, questions? Comments?
You know, budget related item for this year, we put in for an FOI position last year because our FOIs are they're just blowing out of control, and it takes so much time to process FOIs, particularly when it comes to video. And not just people doing FOIs for the court. Every arrest that is made now, we have to provide all the body camera videos and booking videos. And you could have 2-3 officers worth of videos that have to be compiled and sent to the court. And so we put in for an FOI position last year. See if it would go, and it didn't.
One person in that position handle what 3 officers are doing now? Not really.
Well, the duties are kind of spread out. Records handles some of it. Administrative officer does some of the booking stuff, and frankly, the lieutenant here does redaction, any juvenile redaction, which takes a lot of time. But we're taking a lot of certified officers to do administrative duties that take a long time, and that's why we thought a civilian
We're trying to get us.
position would be
Like a processing tech,
more appropriate.
a higher
Yeah.
level that would maybe work out of reports and records.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it would relieve the lieutenant of having to do redactions, because you can't put domestic violence victims, you have,
Right.
you know, police safety
Right.
tactics in there you don't want disclosed. Like, it's pretty complicated when you have it. And then
Yeah.
if you redact stuff and then someone files a FOIA complaint and you have to go and do a FOIA hearing, You need a professional with the expertise to do that and
And-
represent. So I think like a,
I've gone to 4 hearings this year already.
yeah,
As the chief. We won all of them, but
you
it's
still
a
have
lot
to
of
go.
work, yeah.
Yeah, so like a professional that does this consistently would actually be beneficial.
Would it be a
Yeah.
part-time or full-time position that you're
We
looking
tried
for?
for a halftime
That
position
would
to
be
get it nose under the
open to-
tent, but it got knocked out.
Maybe for the budget for 26.
Put
So
it back
that,
in.
that could be one of those items for 26 that. we're
Yeah.
gonna
But it-
focus on.
again-
Yep.
I'll add that to the list.
This affects our budget, all this time we're spending.
Right.
And on your line items, did you acknowledge that, Lieutenant Martin, as far as, the money we're spending on freedom of information work?
No, because I only deal with patrol resources really, so.
Okay, so that's outside your preview.
Just out of curiosity, do the FOI result in overtime pay? And I'm just thinking of like officers having to focus on that and then other work gets bumped in overtime, or doing that FOI as overtime.
The people that do FOI are not working patrol, so it's really not creating overtime. It's taking away from their other duties, if anything.
Would then create overtime to get those other duties done?
It could, but I don't think. we've
I'm
really
not sure
tried.
that I would go there,
Okay,
but
okay.
I can tell you that particularly for our records people, they spend an inordinate amount of time doing that, and they have a hard time giving citizens the attention they need when they come in to get things from records and stuff, because they're watching videos all the time. Every video, we can't release every video without watching the entire thing to see if we need any redaction.
Yeah,
So they have to watch every one for
Because-
hours
Yeah,
sometimes.
Because-
The case might take.
And redacting video is,
Right.
That's another
That's the amount of
unfunded
work.
mandate that
Mhm.
the state required PWC now costs a lot of hours to view, yeah.
And we get a lot of stuff that you wouldn't think. But car crashes.
yeah,
Within people that are injured, well, you have to redact that, right? We have, you can't have.
Attorneys are
Minor.
supposed to
Dead
all the
people,
time.
minor.
Stages of
All the
undress.
time.
Yeah.
6 cops to the scene, all wearing body cameras, plus 6 cruisers at the scene, all with video cameras in the cars.
Oh,
It's a huge
It is.
burden.
Yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be done.
and the only reason I asked about the overtime is thinking of the justification of the role.
Yeah, it's all done by inside people, so really, like I said, you're taking a certified officer that makes this much money when you could pay someone this much
Mhm.
as a civilian to do the same function, and then allow them to go out and do the things that they should be doing wearing uniform. So give that another shot this year.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that takes care of our regular meeting. We're going to, is there anything else you'd like to add, Chief?
I did leave in front of all of you the training officers report because it was late getting to us and I can get it into your envelope. I did want to know also that Officer Delgado went to phlebotomy technician school and is now a certified phlebotomist, which makes her one of a handful in the state that can called upon for like fatal accidents and all. The state's going towards this whole more blood testing, and they want the goal is to have a person in every agency be able to draw blood.
She's
And,
certified.
and she's now certified, yes. So she has to maintain that certification. She has to do so many hours in the medical field. She's also our emergency medical instructor. So what prompted that was when Trooper Pelletier was killed. GA-15, our court called and asked if she was a phlebotomist. They wanted to use her to do the blood work on the suspect. And of course, they wanted to try and get a police officer that was doing it, and they knew she was very active in the emergency medical field, and she wasn't. So having talked to the prosecutors over there, an opportunity came up to send her, and so we spent the money and sent her. We are centrally located in the state. I'm sure she's gonna get called all over the place too. So,
That's great to hear.
plus, we gotta play nice with the court. I want favors too. So,
Okay, well, if that takes care of that, I'd like to Does somebody make a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we take a brief pause? Motion passed an executive session to assign an officer to the FBI task force.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're gonna end the meeting now. I need a motion first and second.
I move to end the meeting.
Second,
Second,
aye.
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 very good. Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Nice.
Oh, thank God that you're